Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mentor Me podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Hall, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Lee Richter. Now, if you're not familiar with who Lee is a business innovator. She comes in and helps businesses grow, overcome any challenges they may be facing, and push forward into the next opportunity. So Lee does that with other people's businesses, and she also owns many businesses herself. So you can see that she's done it in her own business. She's been successful. She's been on the top 100 women business leaders for the past 7 years. Her company is in the top 100 fastest growing businesses in the Bay Area. And on top of those things, Lee is a best-selling author, a producer, a member of the Forbes Business Council, and somehow, on top of all this, she has time to sit down with me on her 25th wedding anniversary. So I just really want to thank Lee for her time, for the deep dive that she was able to go into and just teach me a ton. And what you'll really notice about Lee is she's focused on mindset, she's focused on learning. As much as she is a coach and she has mentored me in this episode, and I hope you get mentored as well through this, she is on Clubhouse app. She is always just looking to learn from other people. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. And if you take anything away, take away her learning and student mentality. I think you'll really take that away from this episode. So enjoy.
Wow, you're making me think back. And I was thinking my beginning to mentorship was actually my first mentor that I had. And I was 21 years old. I got hired by Merrill Lynch. They actually came on college campus and they had people take the disc profile. All the way back then, they had us take the disc profile, right? And when I took the disc profile, I was ding, 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 perfect match. And there were about 50 of us they picked around the country, and they brought us in as a class together. And for 2 years, we trained and we had mentors and we learned together. And my very first mentor was assigned to me was Lou Holtz. And Lou
No
Holtz
way.
was a football coach for Notre Dame at the time and kind of world famous and definitely a disciplinarian, but also he knew how to lift people up and inspire them, right? So the group of 50 of us had him literally come in on a regular basis and mentor us. You know, he mentored us with mindset first, but he also mentored us with a really big thing, which was you're coming into the world of finance and you need to clear out your money stories that don't work for you. And he taught us that our money stories go back many generations. And so he taught us to each bring up our family money stories. You know, people would say things like money doesn't grow on trees or money's the root of all evil or whatever it is that was their money story. And over 2 years, actually, we worked and dispelled all of those myths and created new money stories. We replaced it. So through that experience, what I learned is the importance of mentorship. But I also learned when he showed up and he was interested in us and he showed us the basics of step by step how to make something last forever, right? How to change our mindset to empower us forever. What he did was he inspired me to, eventually not only put it into play for my life, but to have a team and inspire them as well. So I've been building teams for decades now. And I went and got my master's in coaching to make sure I was coaching the proper way, and I didn't screw anyone's head up too much anyway. And you know what? We teach what we need to learn the most. Right?
Mm.
That's what we do. So I think along that path, I recognized it in someone else. And then I desired that skill for myself. Then I went and got the education for myself. And then now I've been doing it ever since. I started a video series a while ago called Mentor Moments. And what I mentioned to people is you don't have to have a mentor that's like every week, 2 o'clock, let's talk for an hour, pour your guts in like a therapist. You don't have to have that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a moment. Sometimes it's just something really interesting right now. And
Mm.
so I think that's the way to have a mentor is not say, hey, can you be my mentor? And can we talk every week? And you keep me in line? No, 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 no. I think it's just in this moment. I have this
Mm.
one thing and I'm wondering, would you mind sharing your genius with me? And maybe I can shorten my learning curve or learn something I didn't know about.
And that's the
So,
beauty of, I think, Clubhouse right now. We were talking a little bit about Clubhouse prior to this, and I think that's the beauty of Clubhouse. There is a draw to just be able to hop in for 30 seconds, 4 hours, and you can just sit and learn whatever you need to. And that's so much, like you had mentioned, you sit in these and you learn about cryptocurrencies or NFTs and all this new information that's out there. And it's funny
By
you
the way,
say,
I literally have a whole new dialogue around digital real estate, and I've bought 200 URLs in the last month because of strategies I've learned in these communities. So some of the communities I go in and teach, some of them I go in and mentor. I was just in two of them. One was actually around cryptocurrencies, and they asked me to come share my genius around some of the things I'm learning. But another one was just around marketing and mindset. So in those, I was able to come and share ideas and connect with people and answer their questions. We have a community called the Growth Network, and it's on Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 a.m. And we have all these experts come in. We schedule them coming in so they can come in and just share their brilliance, and we can just take notes and apply it and ask them questions. We had Michelle Phan in a room the other day, who's the #1 YouTuber, right? And the things that she taught us were incredible. And I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky that I'm in the room with her, because I'm hearing something that she wouldn't normally say in public, but she felt so safe in this room to contribute. So I think it's a really nice way to connect. What I see is this: TikTok is what TV used to be, especially for this newest generation that we're all aspiring to be more like, right? Because they're super cool. But I think TikTok is what TV used to be. And Clubhouse is the feeling of radio. And I've had members of my team and I sitting around and listening, and I'm like, wow, this really is what it used to be like in like the 1940s and 50s, and families sitting around and listening together. And because it's on mute, they could talk about it. And if they want to go on stage, they can interact. And so it is kind of fun for the moment. I think while we're all desiring connection at a deeper level, it's an easy way to connect at will whenever you want. And for the speakers, I was telling the speakers, they get a few things they get to do. Like, I was with Les Brown on New Year's Day, and I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm spending New Year's Day with Les Brown on Clubhouse. And what he got was connection. What he got was he was seen and heard. He got to, deepen ideas and inspire people. But what we got was access that we normally get, right? Normally I would not be talking to, I've spoken with Les Brown many times. I've met him in person many times. We've shared a stage. And what I'm thinking is, I'm not usually going to talk to him on New Year's Day. But that day I got to. So I think access is a big piece of it.
Yeah. One thing I'm catching on as you're talking, and as I've listened to some of your videos and read some of your blogs, is you have a super teachable personality. You come to the table and you're a coach yourself. But you said we coach what we need to learn most. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that means?
We teach what we need to learn the most. We're attracted to it because in our brain, we want the desire of, improving ourselves, getting even better, right?
Right.
So I think along the way, some of the things that I look at in each decade of my life is, what was I attracted to in my 20s or in my 30s? And by the way, in my 20s, I was not thinking about mentoring because I didn't even think I had anything to share at that level. It wasn't really until even my 40s that I started thinking, oh, I actually am a mentor. I just hadn't thought about it, right? And every time I spoke, I was mentoring. But up until then, I think I was more a sponge and listening and taking all the information in, realizing what Lou Holt said is, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more than speak. He also taught us, the 50 of us in that room, he did teach us something really valuable, which was, you guys are some of the smartest people in the world already. And you're in this room. You already know what you know. Sit back and learn from everyone else. Sit back and learn from it. And I'll tell you, a lot of smart people, they all went, ooh, I know the answer. I know the answer. That training was so good for me. And I'm in masterminds with like Jeff Walker and Joe Polish. And I've had them even say, Lee, contribute more. And I'm like, oh, Lou really taught me well. Sit back. I already know what I know. I'm learning from you. And I like that they asked me to contribute, but I'll tell you, I love more learning from them because it adds to my toolbox, adds to my mindset, adds to my experience and memories with them. And so sometimes I have a lot to say. Like right now, I could probably go on forever with you on this topic, but sometimes people in a room with me for 2 days and barely hear me say anything. So it just depends on the timing, the audience, and am I in learning mode or teaching mode? So when we're talking about, we need to, we really teach what we need to learn the most. Right now, I'm in a phase of sharing a brand that I have called Share Happiness Now. ShareHappinessNow.com is one of those brands. And I built it years ago. Actually, I think my daughter was in about 5th grade and she's in 11th grade now. And I built it actually for my team because we were going through some challenges. We had a few losses. A team member had passed away, and we needed to learn how to like up our level of happiness, especially at work. And we'd been doing this like for 11 or 12 years, but at this point we're like, let's share it with the world. And I realized in that moment, as we shared it, we blossomed more in it. And yeah, it became contagious. So I think that's what it is. If you're putting out the information, you're attracting that same frequency back. So whatever you teach, you will multiply, right? So I like teaching happiness right now because it's multiplying. And one of the things my friend Ben Hardy, Dr. Ben Hardy wrote a book, Willpower Doesn't Work. And one of the things he writes in there that is so valuable is, and also he wrote Personality Isn't Permanent. So I can't remember which one is in more, but he says the key is being in control of your environment, right? So part of the reason I'm in Hawaii for all this time is the environment feeds my soul, makes me happy. I look forward to sunrise. I look forward to sunset. So I create a rhythm that serves me best. Creates my, it gets my creative spirits up even higher. But guess what? Then I started attracting these other creatives at the highest level. One of my friends and clients is the CEO of Comic-Con. He's been writing comic books since he was 21 years old. It's called The Wizard. People tell me stories all the time about how he inspired them into creativity. What's he need? He loves being creative. He comes and flies to Maui to see me, not once, but twice in the past few months. And the second time he brings all these art supplies and we sit and create art for hours. We just create art. And this is before we did our business development. And what it did was it opened his mind to such creativity that when we went to do our business development and use that creativity, it just was an overflow. But what I did was I met him where he was, right? Which is, I want to do art and just empty my brain and just be free. And then from there, we could build on it. So we were mentoring one another in that moment, right?
Right.
So when I say we teach what we need to learn the most, I was open to his teachings. He gave me art. He had me slow down. He had me be in his element. He had me be in a place where he could shine and be the teacher. And then from there, we can blossom even more, right? And then switch it to the business side. And because he had that moment for himself, and he was mentoring and felt empowered and happy and connected and joyful, when I switched to mine, it was in flow so easy. And he's like, wow, we think alike. And I'm like, we think alike because we put ourselves in the same frequency. The frequency of creativity, the frequency of mentorship, the frequency of abundance, and the number one most important piece, frequency of gratitude. We showed up in gratitude for each other every single day. We did a gratitude circle and we named it. And I think from building from that place, we made a deeper relationship. We taught what we needed to learn the most, but then we learned it and we applied it and took action. So we created that space to not only teach what we need to learn, but to do something with it. And that's what separates me from a lot of other leaders, is that action piece is right there. I'm doing it.
Did you find yourself, when you were changing your environment to what you wanted to become, did you find yourself losing touch with people you were close to, but once you changed that environment, you kind of, and I'm not saying this as in you took the next step and left them in the dust, but more so of like, did you start pursuing this and wanted this, but other people were pursuing something else? Did you feel that separation from people at all?
It's a great question. And I'll tell you, in a couple of the Clubhouse rooms recently, I've heard people say, as they're coaching people, I'm teaching you how to be at the next level. And you're going to see over the next year, you're going to have to release some of your friends because you've heard that we resonate at the frequency of the top 5 people we spend our time with. So as you're growing and as I'm growing into the next level and graduating in that next level, we're adding friends that are at that level naturally. Right? Because they help pull us into that. They help support us into that. But as a business leader, I'm always looking at companies that are 2 stages ahead of me and asking them, what are you doing? How are you doing it? I want to learn from them, right? So just like you, podcast, invite them on as a guest, deep dive. That's a great way to learn people 2 stages ahead of you, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly, right? So while you're doing that, you expand your circles, you expand your reach, and you add more people. You don't have to necessarily go and eliminate. And I know some people who pull out their phone and will eliminate negative people. I kind of agree with that. I don't even want that energy in my phone. However, I don't think you have to go and say, okay, you're not worthy of being my friend anymore. However, when you're together, they will start seeing, wow, you're really going somewhere, and it's quite different. And some will say, can you bring me along and teach me a thing or two? And others will be a little intimidated, and some will say, oh, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? And from there, you just decide, who's the better fit to spend more time with. And
Right.
naturally, it's going to be the ones who are like, hey, I want to be on this ride with you. Can I learn? Can I come with you? I actually had someone text me this morning and said, do you have room on your team for one more ambitious person that I can just come learn from you? And that's part of what I call batteries included, right? When I bring someone on the team and I have, all the programs, basically, I have Brendan Burchard's, I have Russell Brunson's, Jeff Walker's. I mean, I've had them for years. Even Pedro, who does the challenges. We've done 6 challenges. Pedro's a friend of mine. I'm texting him in the background, right? So I have these programs. When I have team and they have access to those programs and they're there 3 months and they haven't opened a single one, what do you think that tells me?
Probably tells you they aren't really pursuing it. They're not as hungry as you thought.
And they're not self-starters, batteries included, the way I'd like them to be on my team. So now I'm getting to the point that my business is at a point where, do I just hire other experts and other entrepreneurs so I don't have to nurture and teach them? So I'm doing tests side by side. And I'll tell you, I did a Facebook group last year and I regretted hiring them. And I'm like, ooh, I'd rather somebody inside. Like, well, how do I know I could trust them? How do I know they're in alliance? How do I know their values match mine unless they're inside my group? So I'm testing this and finding out. I do have one partner where we use teams that are outside the country and they show up, batteries included, and we'll use them all day long. However, the ones that I have to like assign things to and go and ask, how did the day go? I don't have much tolerance for that. So as I'm growing bigger, I have less capacity for the little day-to-day handholding. However, I have leaders in check to do that. But even the leaders show up differently. The ones that show up, batteries included, they'll get way more. The ones that show up needy or let go of, ideas that I taught them 10 years ago and they could use right now. And I have to be like, do you remember that book, Getting Things Done? Do you remember that book? Oh, do you remember I took you and you got to meet the author in person in Arizona at Infusionsoft? Do you remember all that? We went backstage, we got to hang out. How about reading that book again and putting it in place? I shouldn't have to remind them. I mean, I gave them an experience. They met the author. They got the book, friggin' know how to do it without me asking. That is you leveling up for your life forever, not just to make me happy in my job. So the people who show up with that attitude, I want them and I keep them. And the ones who don't, it breaks my heart, but got to have a limiter for the future. If they're not going to produce and they're going to be hiding in COVID, right? Team members coming too. I was actually talking to Vishen, who's the CEO of Mind Valley in one of my masterminds with Evan Pagan. And we were pulling the curtain back on COVID and the teams. And he said his team is using Airtable. His team is more successful than they've ever been. However, as they transition in COVID, half were hiding or a percentage were hiding and a percentage were upfront going, I'm doing even better. So what did he do? The ones I'm doing even better, he gave them more projects, he gave more work. The ones that are like hiding, he's like, maybe we should find a better fit for you. I'm going to do you a favor and cut you loose so you don't have to hide anymore. And I think that was a brilliant observation for all of us to see. Right now is a new world. Right now is new rules, and we get to create the rules as the CEOs. And why not make the rules where all of us win together, where all of us are up there celebrating, where all of us are sharing our nuggets of genius, where all of us are proud of our work. We're not hiding. And so I'm going to take that cue from him and up level. I'm up leveling my team right now.
Yeah, I love what you said about batteries included. I've never heard that said before. So what are some ways that you can tell as CEO that these people are coming in batteries included? They're not hiding from anything. And how do employees show that to their president or boss?
There's a few things. Number one, I recommend the book Chief Maker. It's from a coach. He's in Australia. He's phenomenal, but he noticed the American way. The American way is very interesting that team members, and I don't call them employees or staff. I don't like those names. I like team members, right? I want to build together. We're a team. And team members can show up different ways, but for the interview, they're like, I'm so excited and I can't wait to be in the team. And I looked at your website and I'm going to do all this and I'm industrious. Now I do their Colby So I could see their work, right? I could see how are they going to show up? Are they a researcher? Are they a visionary? Can they follow through? Can they create with their hands? So I'll see that piece, right? However, in the American way, they get on the job and then all of a sudden they turn very entitled. A lot of them turn into, okay, what are you going to give me? How much vacation do I get? What happens if I call in sick? And I'm like, whoa, but we haven't even started working. How about, where do I park? I can't wait to be here. Should I be here 10 minutes early? Should I make coffee for the team? How can I support the team? Show up like that. Show up with the mindset of, I'm super happy to be on this team. How can I be of service? Not what's in it for me. If they're what's in it for me, I already have a clue in like, is this a team player? The next thing is, because of the Colby, I can put them into a team, right? So say they're really great at research. I'll match them with a researcher, will be matched with a follow-through person and a visionary. Let me have the three of them together take a project for the next 5 days. How do they work it out? How do they share it? How do they celebrate it? Do they tell me about it every day? Do they tell me about it at the end of the week? What's exciting? What milestones? And then when they present it to me, are they excited about it, right? Are they about it? If they're not, we don't do it. So that's based on a book called Sprint. Google Ventures uses it. They help get Uber and Airbnb to the next level when they were hitting their stride, but they wanted to know how to be $100 million plus company. Google Ventures taught them 5-day sprint. And the book is called Sprint. And right inside the cover is the formula. And the formula is come up with an idea. On the first day, you give it a researcher. And you say, hey, you have the next day and a half to research this. Get us anything you can. The key to that is you have to give them a time limit and a deadline. Otherwise, they'll research forever. And this is what hurts companies. Researchers 6 weeks from now will still be researching. And you're like, where's the data? So you have to give them a time limit. And if anyone gets anything, that's the number one thing to do is empower them by giving them a time limit and then giving them the follow-through person to come in on Tuesday afternoon and work with them to take it to the next level. Now they're not doing it by themselves. Now they have someone to be dedicated to. And now they have someone who could literally, they could pass the baton and that person can run with it. But they could do it together. And now you bring the visionary back in and you say, okay, now let's wrap it for a bow. Let's wrap it with a bow and let's take it and present it on, here's what our findings are and here's what we can do. And if it works and they're excited about it, it's something we can work on. If it's like, oh, this is horrible or we don't have enough audience, then I didn't waste much time, just 1 week of sets to decide. So I think that's one of the ways is to empower the team, but also you're going to see how they rise to the top. You're going to see how they actually do their work and fulfill their promises. You're going to see if they hide or they're excited. You're going to see if they can meet deadlines. And pretty much you could do that in the first 90 days. And within 90 days, you know if it's go or no go as a fit. And that's pretty much what to do. I like teams of 3 because usually they rise together and you could see who's the cream of the crop pretty easily because you have a comparison, especially if they start at the same time. So I'm going to be doing that next month with some new people coming in. And sometimes I'll have contractors and have it do a horse race. I'll let them know they're in a horse race, but boy, will they want to show up and shine, right? If they know there's 2 other people doing the same thing, right?
Right. And you get a great glimpse of how they work as a team. When you give someone a specific role, how do they mesh working with these other people? Are they going to be jerks? Are they going to work well together? Are they going to partner with each other for the good of the goal you set out for them? That's very cool.
Honestly, collaboration, one of my favorite books I actually learned way back, maybe 10 years ago. I was on a plane on the way to Amsterdam, and the guy sitting next to me was the author of the book Collaboration, and it's out of Harvard. And I learned so much from that, the power of collaboration. I'm really glad that I read that because I never look at anyone as competition. I always look for the point of entry where we can collaborate, where we can lift each other up. And I think when team members do that, when they naturally want to lift each other up, it can't help but multiply. And it makes the person who's the lifter look the best. And my team gets mad at me sometimes because they see me lift so many other people up. But as a PR person, I love doing it. It's natural, right? And for them, they're like, why aren't you telling about your program or what you're doing? I'm like, honestly, I was having so much fun saying what they do and how great they are. But then in the background, I'm getting all these DMs from people, including that person saying, I'm grateful. Hardly anyone ever does that. And that was so genuine and nice. And I think that it helps everyone. There's a saying in BNI's Business Networking International. There's more than 4,000 chapters just around the world sharing connections. And they always say givers gain. That's their biggest thing, givers gain. They just approach it. And I'll see new people come into the clubs and they'll be like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? And everyone's like, I don't know if you're a good match. But within
Yeah.
3 months, they get it. They drink the Kool-Aid and they see it really works. And all of a sudden you see them like, oh, I see this and I see this connection and this person. And it's such a way to blossom. Watching them be in the giver's mentality helps them be so much more successful. I mean, it's magnetic. It really is. So it's fun to witness the transformation when someone clicks and they get it, because they don't always come in that way. No one's taught them before, but
Right.
here they're 50 people modeling it every week and saying thank you and acknowledging people, and they start riding the wave and they start saying, oh, this feels good. Wait, oh, let me stretch this new muscle. And then all of a sudden, they're winning awards for being the best referrer. So it really is fantastic. And I'm sure there's a BNI near you that eventually will be open again. It's definitely a great way to learn a group of professionals.
Yeah.
And they only let one in each community, like one attorney, one accountant, one real estate person. So it's a really great way to build your natural network and connect again. So I'm not in BNI now. I kind of graduated from it, but I was there for 15 years. I led a chapter. I did mentor moments in the chapter. I actually started mentor moments in the chapter. It was my idea and it blossomed in the whole organization. And recently I was with the CEO and founder of it, Ivan Meisner. And, to just see his dream come true like this and him be so happy about it, is contagious. He sees how many entrepreneurs he empowers in a big way. And it just, it makes him so happy to see them so successful.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Mentor Me podcast with Lee Richter. If you did enjoy, go give a like or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you did watch it on YouTube, thank you so much. And there will be part 2 with Lee Richter coming out next week. So be on the lookout for that, and thank you again for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Mentor Me podcast with Lee Richter. If you did enjoy, go give a like or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you did watch it on YouTube, thank you so much. And there will be part 2 with Lee Richter coming out next week. So be on the lookout for that, and thank you again for listening.